As many of you probably know, BBC Radio 4 Longwave has been on the edge of shutting down for quite a while now. A lot of people have tried to protest it, hoping the BBC would keep Longwave alive, but unfortunately, the BBC has now confirmed that Longwave will be closing down later this year. They haven't given an exact shutdown date yet, but they've said listeners will get at least 2 months notice before the shutdown happens. They will also be broadcasting daily reminders on the air to help people move to other ways of listening like FM, DAB or online services. They have actually discussed this a couple days ago on the air. Here's a fragment of that.
Now, despite all those plans for the future of audio, the past is not quite yet another country. Radio 4 is still available on Longwave, just about. Feedback has covered plans to close down the Longwave transmitter at Droitwich in Worcestershire for a number of years, and we've reflected the views of those campaigners who want to keep it. But last week, the BBC confirmed it would definitely be ending Longwave transmissions later this year.
This is the Reverend Dr. Tobias Thorns, and I live in Worcestershire. I've contacted you before regarding Radio 4 Longwave, but this is now becoming a critical issue. The BBC has recently begun broadcasting messages on Longwave, suggesting that they will shortly be shutting down the platform, probably in September. This is in spite of more than 7,000 signatures, and growing, on a petition for the BBC to keep Longwave, numerous letters and emails to the corporation, and a 3-year campaign to save Longwave, and it is in spite of at least 24 MPs calling on the BBC to reconsider. In June 2025, a 32-page document was handed in person to the Director General's office, setting out 6 major reasons why Longwave must be retained, including national security, the environment, heritage value, and as a vital lifeline in underserved rural areas. The BBC has provided no robust response to this report.
My name is Anthony Rodriguez, present in Ashford, Surrey. That will leave the Longwave band effectively redundant for most UK listeners with such sets, remembering that due to its huge wavelength, Longwave can reach almost all corners of the UK, and still can, and well into the continent in these troubled times. I want to say that Longwave deserves a further reprieve, perhaps for another decade or so, in line with the extension on the digital switch-off.
This is Rhys Thomas from Denby. My understanding is that the BBC considers Longwave to be unnecessary. Indeed, on the BBC adverts, it's no longer mentioned when FM, digital and smart speaker are quoted as a media where Radio 4 can be found. Rural parts of the UK do not have FM, let alone digital coverage of Radio 4. Central Wales is a good example of this.
All continuing, and it will happen. So we did ask BBC for an update.
We recognise the attachment many listeners have with Longwave and have carefully considered those views. The Longwave infrastructure is owned and operated by a third party who have advised the BBC that it's coming to the end of its life as a technology and the platform will close in 2026. Continuing would require significant investment to replace for a platform now used by a very small proportion of listeners. In anticipation of closure, we announced in 2022 that we would stop scheduling separate content on Longwave. No programmes will be lost, and over the coming months, we will be signposting any remaining Longwave listeners to alternative platforms with targeted trails across the service in advance of its closure.
According to the BBC, the reason for the closure is that the company that owns and operates the Longwave transmission equipment says the system is reaching the end of its life. Longwave is very old broadcasting technology, and with most listeners now using FM and DAB, the BBC says upgrading the equipment simply isn't considered cost-effective for a license fee-funded service. But honestly, this is still a huge loss. For radio enthusiasts and amateurs, Longwave is something special. There's something really satisfying about trying to pull in the best possible signal of BBC Radio 4 from hundreds of kilometers away. Or maybe that's just me. But the people that will be affected the most are the people that are living in very rural parts of the UK or even Western Europe, where FM or DAB coverage can be poor, unreliable, or simply unavailable. For many of them, Longwave has been the most dependable way to stay connected. It's also incredibly important during emergencies. If there were major natural disasters, Longwave could still reach people where other systems might fail. FM is line of sight, and only works for over shorter distances, while longwave can travel across the entire UK, huge parts of Europe, and even beyond. Another major issue is the radio teleswitching service, or RTS. Some older electricity meters rely on this system, which is carried within the longwave signal. The BBC says RTS is managed energy industry, not by them, and people using these old meters should contact their energy supplier about upgrades or replacements. BBC Longwave isn't just another radio signal, it's a service with massive reach, history and importance. Once it's gone, it's not something that can easily be replaced.